when I was really little, we had dogs, but I don't really remember a lot about them. My dad went hunting. He had hunting dogs and stuff like that. Once we moved, when I was like 10 years old, my parents wound up getting divorced. And we didn't have any pets, but I was that child that always brought the pets home. And my mother always told me no. So I brought home kittens, I brought home puppies, I brought home a goose one time. And I actually hid it in my bedroom, and my mother didn't know for like 3 days that I had this goose in my room because she would leave and go to work. And as long as you kept the goose covered in the dark, he didn't make any noise. As soon as he saw light, he would start squawking around. One of the dogs I brought home, Tugga, but we weren't allowed to keep her. She had to go back. You know, my mom always told me they went on a farm. I believed her. You could cut that out. And of course, you know, it was too hard. You know, she was a single mother of 4 kids, and we couldn't take on another animal. But she actually always jokes and says that this is why I do what I do now, is because she wouldn't let me keep all the pets and stuff like that. So, I mean, they are a lot of work, and it's a commitment. I mean, eventually my mother allowed me. I think I was like 19 or 20. I was still living at home, and I was able to get a cat, and then Finster. And Finster lived to be like 17 years old. I'm not a traditional student. I went to college just like a couple classes after high school, but then I really pretty much went to work. I actually went right from high school right to the working career, and then took some part-time classes at night, but then kind of put it to the side. And then, you know, married, had children, and then went back night school. So it took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree going, working full-time and going to school part-time. During that time, you know, I focused on accounting. I actually am a CPA, so I studied for the exam. That was tough. It was a tough test to take and everything. And then, you know, I worked in public, I worked in private companies and everything. But I think the career, once I at least moved to private industry doing the accounting work, it allowed me a little bit more flexibility with time so that I could focus on what we like to do with the rescue and volunteering. No, Chris and I, it wasn't like, I would say it wasn't the poor guy. No, he knows. Chris and I used to work together, so there's an age difference between Chris and I. So I am older than he is, and when, you know, we worked together, I got divorced. I was divorced before I even met him, and I had 2 children already, and he was younger. But with our group at the work, sometimes we would go out every once in a while. We'd all go out for some drinks or whatever on a Friday night after work and stuff like that. And one of the Friday nights, it was just Chris and I, and nobody else showed up. So, and then that's how we wound up dating. And for a while, we had to keep it very quiet because nobody at work really could know. Especially, I was in a management position at the company, and it just made it a little bit difficult for us to be dating. And then I eventually left that company because of not just that, but because that, you know, I was fulfilling my other goals of my career path. We got married in 2003, and I was going through, you know, all the wedding photos or whatever, and putting them in the boxes and stuff like that. And I wrote on the box, I wrote wedding 2003. And Chris made fun of me. And he's like, as opposed to wedding whatever. And I go, You wait. I go, in 5 years from now, you're going to be looking at that box to see what date is on that box. Like, here it goes. I didn't have kids in high school anymore or anything like that. I think my son was still in college, my daughter was still in college, but I had the more time to volunteer and become involved. And actually, I started volunteering, and then I got Chris involved, and I got my daughter involved in it. And I did anything from going and helping and cleaning at the kennel to doing adoption events. I would do the whole setup, breakdown, be the lead, where you have to actually do reference checks and approve applications for people to do the adoption. I used to do their payroll. I used to do their books for them for a little while, do their banking, did a lot of fundraising for them too, and just different activities. I don't think people realize how much goes into running a nonprofit organization, or just even, the rescue. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on. It's not just going to the adoption events and getting the dogs or the cats adopted. There's just so much back room stuff that needs to be done and support that you need. When we started volunteering, you're exposed to a lot of dogs and you're handling a lot of dogs, especially when you're working the adoption events. And part of the rescue world is you need fosters. Chris and I talked about getting a foster. His definition of a foster versus my definition of a foster were different. I understood that you foster, then you're supposed to find them a good home, and you repeat the process so that you could keep making room for another dog or another animal to be saved. With Chris, though, he thought fostering was they came home and they never left. So he brought Gio home, and he was a big dog. He was a big coon hound. He almost looked like a little miniature horse. But he was the sweetest, gentlest thing. And then he was funny too. My daughter had a boyfriend over, and I guess when they first came to the door, Gio, he was like, that was the first time I think I heard him with his big, deep hound. Like he was like that. But he was fine. Like he just was telling, don't you mess with my family. But he was like, the sweetest thing. He really just was like just saying, And then once he was like, okay, you can come in. It's like, you're fine. And unfortunately, we really did not have him for very long. We really didn't get to experience all those things that a dog owner would, because his health declined very quickly after we got him. And we had to make some tough decisions with him, which you don't want anybody to have to make those decisions. And I think that's why we started the organization, was originally because we wanted to help in one way or the other, and that if we can help any little bit that we can do to help somebody else or to help another dog in need, makes it worth it, and it kind of lets his legacy live on and everything. We talked about what we wanted to do, what our mission was, and he pretty much ran with the paperwork, which was really good because I probably would still be sitting on it today if he didn't do it. And then we formed the nonprofit organization, but we really didn't do a lot with it. And it wasn't because we didn't want to. It was, life gets in the way and other things happen. And I don't think we were fully ready to do anything just yet. When we first moved down here, actually Chris was down here for about 9-10 months before I actually moved down here full time. I was coming down, driving back and forth, just between jobs and stuff like that. He just couldn't make the move all at once. So he was down here, I was up there, and then it started to become less frequent. of coming here because it's a long drive. I'm like, okay, I'm not coming down this weekend. So then I was like, you need to make decisions. So it was like, all right, I'm gonna leave my job and then come down here. And then when I resigned from my job, they were nice enough to extend that I could work from home. So, which was really great. So that made it a little bit easier for me to come down here. The transition, it wasn't hard. It's just different. It's just different. I mean, I love the weather, you know, the area, the people, but I grew up in New Jersey all my life. That's where my family is. So I don't really know a lot of people down here. I don't. I mean, we're starting to know people, but I don't know a lot of people. So the store helps a lot too with that kind of social aspect. And then once we moved to North Carolina, the opportunity arose that we were able to do something where Chris's schedule was more flexible. I mean, I work full time. I still work full time. And he had the flexibility where he could run the store on the off hours when he wasn't working. He was teaching at that time. And then I would work behind the scenes doing whatever the accounting. At that time we had no payroll. We didn't have any employees at that time. It was just him and I, and we'd work every Saturday. It was nice though, because when we first opened up the thrift store, the community was so supportive of us, and I didn't realize it. I thought, you know, we were gonna open up the store, you know, we'd have, you know, a couple of people come in, and I'd be having to take a second job, or we'd have to take a second job so we could pay the rent, you know, for the store. And it really took off, and the community was very, very supportive of us, whether it was donations or shopping in our store. And that's where we started to realize we had a lot of regular customers, and we started to know them by name, and they started to know us by name. And like to this day, I mean, it's almost 4 years later, we still have some of those original customers that came in when we first opened up that still shop our store. And it's just nice. It's nice to give back to the community. It's nice to hear their stories about their pets and their journeys. And also too, just even when people donate stuff, I don't know, maybe I'm a little weird or whatever, but like when somebody donates stuff, they don't look at it like they're just donating objects to me. They always think they had a history before, like now they're gonna have a history again. A lot of just the old stuff, like I didn't know what a lot of objects were, and you know, we would kind of get our customers involved. Let's guess what this is and everything, and they have a lot of fun. And I think that's what kind of makes our store successful or whatever, is that when somebody comes in the store, like you're not just a customer and they're shopping. Like you're there. We want you to feel welcome. We want you to be part of the family. It's, you know, like, what do you think about this? How do you like that?
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
And a lot of them were very helpful, especially in the beginning with Chris and I. We had no idea what some of the value of items were, or, you know, how to navigate and display things, and people gave us a lot of direction and advice. So especially this time of year, it's hard. It's a busy season, and we work 10, 12-hour days sometimes, and then I am trying to keep everything afloat with the Gio Fund, and doing the books and doing the payroll, the sales tax, and all the accounting work. Saturdays I spend the whole day doing, you know, stuff here at the store, whether it's the online sales or fundraising, PPT baskets. But that stuff I enjoy too. I enjoy talking with the customers. I enjoy doing stuff for this store. I enjoy doing the fundraising events. The paperwork side, it's not so much fun, but it's got to be done. In the near future, I would like to be able to not have to work my full-time job and semi-retire. It's not that I don't want to work. But if I don't have to work as much on that job and we can financially be able to reduce that role, then I can focus my efforts on the Gio Fund and the costs. And that's really what I'm looking forward to. Chris and I live a very simple life. We really try to live within our means so that we can be able to do this and focus our efforts on it. Chris always is thinking. His mind is always going. He never stops thinking about different ideas on how to grow the organization or how to expand our cause. And to the point sometimes that he drives me nuts. Because it's like, can we just have a day off where we're not talking about it? And I'm more of the realistic person, so I think we balance each other out, because I'm more like, well, that sounds good, but we need to think about this and this. But he's more of the risk taker too, because then he's like, well, if we don't do this, we're never going to grow. And he's right, so it's funny because we don't always agree. But I guess that's what kind of makes it better too, is because we challenge each other.